Hey now.
Hey now.
What's going on, everybody? We're back with another episode of IoT Nuggets.
Yay. Yay, Doug. Yay.
How's everyone doing? How you doing, Steve? My illustrious co-host, Mr. Steve Brummer over there, the IoT Executive of the Year.
Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
I'm up here in Boston, Massachusetts, freezing my tail off. Everybody that knows IoT Nuggets sees usually palm trees behind me at the beach. But now I'm up here in a Westin hotel, freezing my tail off. So, it's just so much fun.
Neither rain nor sleet nor snow will hold back this IoT warrior, Mr. Steve Brown.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
We'd also like to introduce Mr. Dan Hight. Thank you for joining us from NextNav.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good to have you here on the show. The Vice President of Business Development and Partnerships at NextNav, and you can reach his company at nextnav.com. And while we're at it, don't forget, up there above Steve's head, bhiotgroup.com is the website if you want to connect with Steve and John Hubler and the rest of the team at BHIoT Group to talk about your IoT deployment and strategy. And with that said, today we're going to talk to Dan about NextNav, and you've heard the phrase location, 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 right? Well, as it applies to IoT, that's where Dan's expertise comes into play. So let's talk about that. Steve, I'm going to pass it on to you, my friend.
Thank you, Mr. Doug. Appreciate it. So, Dan, thank you so much for being here. It's great to catch up with you. You gave us the opportunity a couple weeks ago to learn a lot more about NextNav and the floor-level location services that you guys are doing. So, give us a little intro for those out in the audience that don't have any idea what NextNav is doing or what you're all about. Tell us a little bit about the company and what you're doing.
Yeah, no, thanks, Steve. And this is great to reconnect as well. So even though you're in cold Boston right now. So as Doug was mentioning, it's location, location, location. And NextNav fundamentally is solving the challenges of GPS. GPS was not built for what it's being used for. And that's what we're ultimately trying to solve. And there's two technologies that we've developed and built. One is commercialized and one is still more in the R&D phase. The first one that we've rolled out commercially is what we call our Pinnacle service. This adds a vertical dimension to existing XY location capabilities. As we know, most location is latitude, longitude, but there's a missing ingredient, the altitude or the Z-axis. That's what we've built and rolled out a network for. And then solving the larger problem of indoor positioning, some of the urban canyon problems, GPS denied areas, and that's our technology, which we call TerraPoint, which is more of a resilient GPS solution, if you will. So those are fundamentally what we have as an offering.
And so as an offering, what is that value proposition and who are your customers?
Yeah, no, great question. So from a Z-axis perspective or a Pinnacle perspective, it's really about adding Z-axis to existing latitude, longitude services. This was originally built for public safety. In fact, many reasons why we have GPS on devices today was around 911 and public safety. And the FCC is mandating that wireless carriers provide the Z-axis for 911 calls beginning this year. And they have to hit accuracy requirements beginning next year. So the initial market that we rolled this out for was for the 911 service, first responders. And much like location services more broadly, in fact, when GPS was built, it was never designed to hail strangers' cars from an app and get into it and drive you to the airport or order food. But in fact, that's what happened when you opened up location-based services to a broader app economy. The much is the same as happening with Z-axis. So as we start moving down this road, game developers, consumer app experiences, and of course, IoT. IoT is really unique, obviously. IoT is a very broad ecosystem, as you and John know more than anybody. And we don't solve everything in the IoT space. It's really about if you want very precise location awareness. So think about a smart warehouse, for instance, and I want to know which bin a bolt goes into for a robot. I might need something that is, sub-inch or, 1 to 2 centimeter level precision. The only way you can do that is with on-premise infrastructure to be able to do that, which is great. And there's certain use cases for that. However, if I need to know, is John or Steve out of a warehouse when there's a incident, having on-premise infrastructure might not necessarily be required for things like safety, things like large asset tracking, things like lone worker, productivity solutions. So our solution, which is more of a network-based solution, allows for floor level determination, what floor something is on versus what bin of a warehouse might be in. So that's really what we're bringing to the market from an IoT perspective. It's really around floor level to add to existing XY solutions that you can get, generally in the 3-meter range of accuracy.
So you're in charge of BD and partnerships. So who are you selling this to? Who's your partners within the IoT infrastructure ecosystem?
Yeah, great question. So we generally are not going to work with the end users. We're usually going to be a component of a larger solution. So generally working more with system integrators. We're working with some of the developers that are building some of the solutions, but we're very rarely going to work with the end customer because ultimately, even location is not going to be the end all be all of whatever an IoT asset tracking solution is going to be, for instance.
Right.
So we're going to be a component player in one of those spaces. So generally working with system integrators would be the people and some of the consultants in the space that are bringing together solutions from different types of providers. Those are generally who we're going to work with, both the big ones and of course the smaller ones. Really anyone who's looking at kind of a whole of an industry problem and what are the right solutions that you need to bring to bear to provide the end-to-end solution. So companies like consultants like yourselves, for instance, would be a great use case of that are looking across the broad ecosystem of what are the different service solutions that are available, pros and cons, because obviously one solution is not going to work in every environment, and ultimately bring those right solutions to solve the customer's needs. That's generally who we're going to work with in the IoT space.
One extra question for you, Dan. What's the pricing model for this? Is it on a per device basis, per location basis?
Yes, and yes.
I wasn't trying to set you up either.
Because we own our own infrastructure, we own our own service. We have a lot of IP wrapped around this. We've actually been granted over 120 patents for our capability. We have a network that's been fully deployed in the U.S. We cover 105 markets, 4,400 cities and towns, and already cover 90% of greater than 3-story buildings in the United States. So it's a broad-based network that's been deployed, which allows us to have very flexible pricing options depending on how our partners work. So it can be on a per device basis. It can be based on usage basis, so API calls. It can be based on a subscription basis. So basically, whatever the right pricing model based on the customer need and ultimately the usage would be something that we can be very flexible with.
Excellent. And then the last question for you is, what's in store for 2022 with NextNav?
Good question. Big question. A lot. So we went public. We recently went public.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. I think very much in the realm of we combined with a special purpose acquisition corporation, Spartacus, that we went public. We announced the intent of that was to raise additional capital for our TerraPoint service. Obviously, infrastructure is not for the faint of heart. It's very expensive to deploy. And this will allow us to have essentially a network of essentially GPS on the ground. We own spectrum in the United States. That's very expensive to maintain, covers 93% of the US population. And our intent for 2022 is to continue to commercialize the Pinnacle service, the Z-Axis service, begin more of the rollout of our TerraPoint service, and then global expansion for our Z-Axis solution to other countries where it makes sense around the world.
Excellent. Well, that's great. That's great news. And yes, 2022 is going to be a banner year for all of us in the ecosystem. There's so many great things going on and new products coming off, off the assembly line, from things that you're doing. So that Dan.
Thank you.
Thank God you don't have that CFO title for that SPAC work you have to do. So fantastic. All right. Thank you very much. All right, Doug, back to you.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Dan. And I find the best part about what you're talking about, and GPS on that Z-axis. You know, Steve plays a lot of basketball, and he likes to brag about his vertical. So now we'll be able to measure it and find out if it's legit.
Oh
Best
God!
news I've heard in a while.
You know what? You're teetering on the edge, Doug. I can tell you that right now.
I like to live on the edge. Well, once again, this was another great episode of IoT Nuggets. We appreciate you all tuning in. Dan, we appreciate you sharing your knowledge and what's going on with NextNav and in the IoT space. And if you out there have a company or have some expertise in the IoT space and you want to join and come on the show, let us know. Reach out, bhiotgroup.com once again, and follow and join and connect with us on LinkedIn as well as YouTube, and you can catch all the rest of the nuggets. With that being said, thank you once again, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a great day.